Hello, my dear learner. It's good to have you again today, and we will be continuing with our discussion on the topic corporate governance. Our item is composition, appointment, and duties of directors, an item we started in our previous lesson. And in our last lesson, we did introduce the first part of that item, where we discussed the processes of appointments, qualification, disqualification, retirement, and removal of directors. Making up our previous lesson again was a director's remuneration and director's remuneration. In our today's lesson, which is lesson number 8, we will continue discussing items falling under that item, and particularly 2 items. 1, training and development of directors, and 2, the framework for performance evaluation of the board of directors. So welcoming you to lesson number 8. Lesson 8, where we'll be taking the items 1, training and development of directors. And 2, framework for performance evaluation of the board of directors. So we start off by looking at training and development. Training and development of directors. Now, because of the nature of the work that directors perform, they are supposed to be on a continuous process of updating themselves and learning to improve their capabilities and to improve their competence when it comes to the performance of the roles and responsibilities of directors. The nature of directors' work is tasking, and the biggest challenge to directors is that the nature of environment within which corporations that they lead operate in is that it's dynamic and keeps changing. So it would only be good for a director, in order for them to perform well and to effect what they do, they remain on a continuous mode of learning. So directors' training and development is essential for that matter. Basically, directors, upon joining the board, must, in addition to induction, must be trained on certain key areas of concern to their job as directors of a company. And particularly so for those members who are joining the board for the first time. It is recommended that all directors shall receive some formal training on their role, duties, responsibilities, and obligations, as well as board practices and procedures. On first appointments, this is particularly so for those who are never had any previous board experience. It is desirable that all company directors are exposed at least once every 3 years on matters relevant to legal reforms, corporate governance, changing corporate environment, commercial risks, and other matters that may be of interest in the execution of their role. What are the specific areas in which training has been suggested. How is training and development beneficial? We now consider the specific objectives of training and development. Training and development. We're generally describing the need for training and development for the board of directors as being necessary so as to ensure that directors are good at what they do. Remember, the sole responsibility of directors in a company is to achieve the organizational vision or organizational success for that matter. We can break down that general necessity or objective into specifics. So objective number one is to ensure directors have sufficient skills and ability to be effective in their role. Obviously, that is expected. Two, to communicate the challenges and changes within the business environment effectively to the directors. I just stated that the nature of business environment is that it is very dynamic and it keeps on moving every day, every other time. Three, training and development is also beneficial because it improves board effectiveness and through this corporate profitability for that matter. And finally, it also supports directors in their personal development so that in future they will have better prospects in managing organizations or serving in the directorship role. Now, what are the main areas on which directors need to be trained on? Currently, it is suggested that initial training of directors shall cover the following areas, but not limited to. One, the rights and obligations of a director. A director needs to be very clear on what their rights are and what obligations the position of a director carries along with. Two, the statutory liabilities and duties of a director under criminal law and company law. Three, they also need to be trained on board practices and procedures. They also need to be trained on corporate strategy and organization. This is the entire process of developing or formulating effective strategies that will enable the company achieve success. They're also supposed to be trained on disclosure and communication policies. This is on matters of making available timely and accurate information to the stakeholders. Again, financial management systems, internal control procedures, and the internal audits. They also need to be trained on the external audit and the board itself. Again, the corporate environment, performance targeting, monitoring, and evaluation. They need also to be trained on risk management issues, information technology and information to the board, and finally, any other matters of interest to the board. The areas we've just identified are key in ensuring that directors are able to execute their role as effectively as they can. Now, this brings us to the next item of our discussion in this lesson, which is the framework for performance evaluation of the boards. Framework for performance evaluation of the boards. For performance evaluation of the board. It is expected that a person appointed to the position of a director makes meaningful contribution towards the realization of the company vision or objectives for that matter. And while appointing directors, they are supposed to be issued with an appointment letter clearly stating the terms and conditions of the appointment or of the job. And in addition, within the same appointment letter, the desire to undertake or the obligation to be subjected to a director's evaluation process must be clearly stated so that a director will be aware that while serving as a director, they will be required to be subjected to a process of evaluation at least once every year. Now, the evaluation of the board of directors is going to be conducted at 3 levels. The first level is all individual directors will be evaluated. The extent to which an individual director is contributing to the realization of the company's goals and objectives. Again, it is also going to be conducted at the chairman's level. Chairman's, or first the board itself, the overall board, and the chairman. How an individual director is contributing to the organization's vision, how the board itself collectively is contributing to the same, and the extent the chairman, who is the representative of the entire board, is also contributing to the success of the company. Basically, the evaluation exercise is largely a self-evaluation process. And one would ask, who then evaluates the board? If the board is the most superior decision-making body within a company, who evaluates the board? The evaluation is simply a self-evaluation exercise, requiring that the directors evaluate themselves and be evaluated by the chairman. Again, the board itself will also evaluate itself in some way, individual directors evaluating each other, and the chairman again will also be evaluated by individual board members. The directors, as they are being evaluated by the chairman, also have an opportunity to evaluate the chairman and give a feedback on it. Now, the evaluation is basically based on a checklist on the job or on the duties and responsibilities of directors. So we will want to know out of the duties and responsibilities that the director is supposed to perform, how are they faring? This evaluation is important because it forms the basis on which maybe identification of training needs can be made. Because when a board member scores poorly in terms of some of the areas in which they are supposed to perform, then it means they might need to be trained so that they improve their abilities when it comes to performance of those roles. Other than that, then the evaluation is also useful because it forms the basis of recommending a director for reappointment or not.